I stopped you because I smell weed. Step out of the car.
There's no weed. I'm on duty. Let me explain.
Don't argue with me. I'll arrest you right now.
I'm showing you my credentials.
Credentials? Do you even know who I am?
You're threatening a federal ATF agent on your own body cam.
The body cam snaps on mid-approach. No introduction, no breathing room. Just the rookie storming up to a black driver sitting calmly with both hands on the wheel. No weaving, no suspicious movements, no smell. But the rookie doesn't even blink before escalating. He leans into the window like he's already decided the ending, voice raised, shoulders squared, the kind of posture that says, I'm in charge no matter what I see. Then he drops the lie that starts everything. I smell weed. The driver's eyes widen, hurt, disbelief, something deeper. He tries to explain, tries to stay calm, but the rookie interrupts, threatens, pushes the stop toward arrest. And the moment the driver reaches slowly, carefully, and reveals a gold federal badge, the rookie still doesn't back down. That refusal didn't just end his job, it triggered federal sanctions, statewide embarrassment, and a disciplinary review that shook the entire department. But what made this rookie so confident he could lie his way through a traffic stop? And how did his own body cam become the proof that destroyed him? Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be heard. The body cam footage begins at 4:37 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon in suburban Atlanta. The timestamp runs in the bottom corner. The audio is clean. Traffic hums in the background. The camera bounces slightly with each step as Officer Tyler Brennan approaches a dark blue sedan pulled over on the shoulder of Route 285. Brennan is 24 years old. He graduated from the police academy 11 months ago. This is his first solo patrol assignment after finishing his probationary ride-along period. He's eager, too eager, the kind of eager that mistakes aggression for confidence. The sedan is clean, no damage, current tags, no reason for the stop beyond a rolling stop at a yellow light 3 blocks back, a minor infraction that most officers would handle with a warning. But Brennan wants an arrest. He wants to prove himself. He wants to show his training officer and his shift supervisor that he can handle real police work. The driver sits perfectly still, both hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2. His window is already down. He's wearing a polo shirt and slacks. Professional, composed. He looks tired, like someone at the end of a long shift who just wants to get home. Brennan reaches the window and immediately plants himself too close, invading space, establishing dominance. "Afternoon, sir. Where you headin'?" His tone isn't conversational. It's interrogational. The driver keeps his hands visible. "Just got off work, officer. Trying to get home." "You were in a hurry back there. Ran that light pretty quick." "It was yellow when I entered the intersection. I didn't run a red." Brennan's jaw tightens. He doesn't like being corrected. "Step out of the vehicle." "For a yellow light?" "I said step out." The driver stays calm. His voice is measured, careful. "Officer, can you tell me why you're asking me to exit the vehicle? I'm happy to provide my license and registration." Brennan leans in closer. The body cam captures his face now, the tight expression, the rigid posture. "I smell weed." The driver's expression changes. Not guilt, not panic, something worse. Disappointment. Like he's heard this line before, like he knows exactly where this is going. "There's no marijuana in this car. I can smell it from here." "Officer, I don't smoke. I don't have any drugs. You're mistaken." Brennan straightens up, hand moving to his belt. "Sir, I'm detecting the odor of marijuana coming from your vehicle. That gives me probable cause to search. Now step out or I'm going to remove you." The body cam shows the interior of the car through the open window. Clean seats, no visible paraphernalia, no smoke, no smell. Just a briefcase on the passenger seat and a gym bag in the back. The driver takes a slow breath. "I need you to understand something. I'm on duty right now. I'm heading home from an active assignment. There's no marijuana in this vehicle because I'm a federal agent." Brennan scoffs. Actually scoffs. The audio picks it up clearly. "Sure you are."
I'm serious. I have my credentials. I'm reaching for them now. Do you think the officer planned to escalate from the second he walked up? The driver moves with exaggerated slowness. His right hand leaves the steering wheel. He reaches toward his hip. The body cam captures every inch of movement. There's nothing fast, nothing threatening, nothing that could be misinterpreted. He pulls out a leather credential wallet and holds it up in his open palm, facing Brennan. The badge catches the afternoon sunlight. Gold, official, unmistakable. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Special Agent, Department of Justice seal. Photograph. Name, Julian Carter. Brennan stares at it for 3 full seconds. The body cam records his face. There's no surprise, no apology forming, just irritation. "I don't give a damn who you are," Brennan says. His voice is louder now, more aggressive. "You still ran that light, and I still smell weed." Julian's eyes narrow. "Officer Brennan, I showed you federal credentials. You're required to verify them before proceeding." "I don't need to verify anything. I've got probable cause." "You don't have probable cause. You fabricated it, and now you're interfering with a federal agent on duty." Brennan leans back into the window. "You got a smart mouth on you. That's going to get you arrested real quick." "I'm not being disrespectful. I'm explaining the law." "I know the law." "Then you know you need to call your supervisor and verify my credentials." "What I know is you're being non-compliant. Now get out of the car before I drag you out." Julian doesn't move. His hands return to the steering wheel. His voice stays level, but there's an edge now, real frustration breaking through professional control. "Officer, you are making a mistake, a career-ending mistake, right now." Brennan smirks. The body cam catches it, a genuine smirk, like this is all a game. "Everybody thinks there's somebody. I showed you a federal badge. Could be fake. It's not fake. Call it in. I'll call it in after I search your vehicle. You don't have grounds to search my vehicle. I told you, I smell marijuana. There is no marijuana. The only thing you're going to accomplish here is interference with a federal investigation." Brennan reaches for his radio. He's done talking. He's made his decision. He's going to prove that this driver, badge or no badge, doesn't get to tell him what to do. He keys the radio. "Dispatch, I need backup at Route 285 southbound, mile marker 47. I've got a suspected narcotics situation and a non-compliant driver." The body cam audio picks up Julian's response, quiet but firm. "You're lying to dispatch right now. There are no narcotics. I'm not non-compliant. I'm sitting still with my hands visible." Brennan ignores him. Julian tries one more time. "Officer Brennan, I am Special Agent Julian Carter with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. I am currently on duty returning from an active surveillance operation. You are now interfering with federal law enforcement operations. I am asking you one final time to verify my credentials and call your supervisor. Save it for the judge." What should an officer do the moment a federal badge is shown?
Brennan opens the driver's door. Julian doesn't resist, but he doesn't help either. He sits perfectly still, waiting for the inevitable. "Step out, now." Julian unbuckles slowly. "I'm complying under protest. This stop is unlawful. Your probable cause is fabricated, and you're about to escalate a situation that should have ended 3 minutes ago." Brennan grabs Julian's arm and pulls him from the vehicle. Not gently, not professionally. A yank that forces Julian to stumble slightly as he exits. "Turn around, hands behind your back." "You're arresting me?" "I'm detaining you." "On what grounds?" "Probable cause and obstruction." "I haven't obstructed anything. I've answered your questions. I've provided identification. I've explained my status. You're the one refusing to follow procedure." Brennan pulls out handcuffs. The metallic clink is loud on the body cam audio. He reaches for Julian's wrist. Then sirens approach, backup arriving. A patrol car pulls up behind Brennan's cruiser. The driver's door opens and a sergeant steps out. Sergeant Paul Hendricks is 41 years old, 19 years on the force, and he's seen enough bad stops to recognize one from 50 feet away. He walks up quickly, taking in the scene. Black driver, white rookie, federal credentials visible on the roof of the sedan where Julian set them when Brennan ordered him out, handcuffs in Brennan's hand. "Brennan, what's going on?" "Suspected narcotics, Sarge. Driver's being difficult." Hendricks looks at Julian, then at the credentials on the car roof. He picks them up, studies them. His expression changes instantly. These are ATF credentials. He could be impersonating. "Did you call them in?" Silence. "Brennan, did you verify these credentials?" "I was about to search the vehicle first." "That's not the procedure." Hendricks turns to Julian. "Sir, are you Special Agent Carter?" "Yes." "Are you currently on duty?" "Yes. I was returning from a surveillance operation in Marietta. Your officer stopped me for a yellow light violation and then claimed to smell marijuana that doesn't exist." Hendricks looks at Brennan. "You smelled weed?" "Yes, Sarge." "Show me." Brennan walks to the open driver's door. He leans in. Hendricks follows. The body cam still picks up the audio. "There's no marijuana in that car." "I smelled it, Sarge." "No, you didn't, and you just lied to me on body cam." "I'm telling you. He showed you federal credentials. What did you do?" "He was being uncooperative." "He was sitting still with his hands on the wheel. I watched your footage. You escalated from the first second. I had probable cause. You had nothing, and now you've interfered with a federal agent on active duty." Hendricks pulls out his radio. "Dispatch, cancel that backup call. We're code 4. When you watch the supervisor's face change, what do you think was going through his mind?
Hendricks walks back to Julian. "Agent Carter, I apologize for this situation. Can you tell me what operation you're returning from?" Julian hesitates. He looks at Brennan, then back at Hendricks. "I can't discuss operational details, but I can tell you that I was on duty, in transit, when your officer stopped me without valid cause and then fabricated probable cause to justify a search." "Understood. Do you need to report this to your chain of command?" "I'm required to. Any interference with ATF operations gets documented and reported to the Justice Department." Hendricks nods slowly. He knows what that means. Federal complaint, internal investigation, media attention, department scrutiny, all because a rookie couldn't admit he made a bad stop. Julian pulls out his phone and steps away. He makes a call. The body cam audio is too distant to pick up the conversation, but his body language is calm, professional. He's reporting facts, not filing a complaint out of anger, just doing his job. Hendricks walks back to Brennan. "You're done for the day. Get in your cruiser." "Sarge, I was just—" "Cruiser, now." Brennan walks to his patrol car. He gets in the driver's seat. The body cam is still recording. He sits there, hands gripping the steering wheel, breathing hard. He's starting to understand, starting to realize that this isn't going away, that the badge was real, that the federal agent he just tried to arrest is about to file paperwork that will end his career. He mutters to himself, barely audible on the audio. "I didn't know. How was I supposed to know?" But he did know. The moment Julian showed him credentials, he knew. He just didn't care. He thought his authority was more important than verification. He thought he could bully his way through the stop. He thought a black driver wouldn't really be a federal agent. He was wrong. Julian finishes his call and walks back to Hendricks. "My supervisor is filing an official interference report. ATF will be contacting your department within the hour." "I understand. Again, I apologize." "I appreciate that, Sergeant, but this goes beyond an apology. Your officer lied about probable cause. He refused to verify federal credentials. He physically removed me from my vehicle and attempted to detain me. All of that is on his body cam. This isn't going away." "I know." Julian gets back in his sedan. He starts the engine. Hendricks hands him his credentials through the window. "Drive safe, Agent Carter." Julian nods and pulls away. The body cam in Brennan's cruiser watches him leave. Do you think the rookie really didn't know, or was he hoping intimidation would work?
By 6 p.m., ATF Regional Director Michelle Torres has filed a formal interference complaint with the Atlanta Police Department. The complaint is detailed: timestamp references, body cam footage citations, specific violations of federal law and departmental policy. The complaint alleges fabrication of probable cause, failure to verify federal credentials, unlawful detention of a federal agent on active duty, interference with federal law enforcement operations, use of excessive authority without justification. By 8 p.m., the chief of police has watched Brennan's body cam footage 3 times. He's consulted with the city attorney. He's spoken with the mayor. The decision is unanimous. Brennan is suspended immediately pending investigation. By Monday morning, Internal Affairs has opened a formal case. They interview Brennan. He sticks to his story. He smelled marijuana. He had probable cause. The driver was uncooperative. He didn't realize the credentials were real. Then they play the body cam footage, all of it, every second. The lie about smelling weed, the refusal to verify credentials, the escalation despite Julian's calm cooperation, the dismissal of a federal badge, the smirk, the threat of arrest. Brennan has no defense. The footage destroys every claim he makes. The Internal Affairs finding is unambiguous. Officer Tyler Brennan violated department policy, state law, and federal law. He fabricated probable cause. He failed to follow procedure regarding credential verification. He interfered with a federal agent. He demonstrated bias, poor judgment, and a fundamental misunderstanding of his authority. Recommendation: immediate termination. The recommendation is approved within 24 hours. Brennan is fired. 11 months on the job, 1 traffic stop, 1 lie. Career over. But it doesn't end there. The Georgia Peace Officers Standards and Training Council reviews the case. They determine that Brennan's conduct warrants decertification. He loses his law enforcement certification. He cannot work as a police officer anywhere in Georgia, ever. The Justice Department's Office of Professional Responsibility adds Brennan to a federal sanctions list. He's barred from any position that involves interaction with federal law enforcement. No joint task forces, no federal contracts, no security work involving federal facilities. The Atlanta Police Department releases a brief statement. Officer Brennan's employment has been terminated following an internal investigation. The officer's actions did not meet our standards or reflect the values of this department. They don't mention the body cam footage. They don't mention Julian. They don't provide details. But the message is clear: we don't protect officers who lie. Julian Carter's ATF operation was delayed by 90 minutes. Surveillance was compromised. A suspect they'd been tracking for 3 weeks became suspicious and went dark. The case eventually closed successfully, but the delay created complications that could have been avoided, all because a rookie cop couldn't admit he made a bad stop. If the body cam didn't exist, how differently would this story have ended? The body cam footage became required viewing at the Atlanta Police Academy. New recruits watch it during their constitutional law section. They watch Brennan approach with aggression. They watch him fabricate probable cause. They watch him refuse to verify credentials. They watch him destroy his own career in real time. The instructors pause the video at key moments. What should he have done here? When should he have called his supervisor? What does the law require when federal credentials are presented? The answers are obvious to everyone watching. Verify, de-escalate, follow procedure, respect credentials, admit mistakes. But Brennan didn't do any of that. He committed to the lie. He doubled down on the aggression. He refused to acknowledge that he might be wrong. And it cost him everything. This story matters because Tyler Brennan isn't unique. Across the country, traffic stops escalate based on fabricated probable cause. "I smell weed" is a magic phrase that justifies searches without evidence.
It's used disproportionately against black drivers. It's used by officers who want arrests more than they want justice. But most of those stops don't involve federal agents. Most of those drivers don't have badges to show. Most of those people can't file federal interference complaints or trigger Justice Department reviews. They just get searched, get detained, get arrested, and hope that someone, somewhere will believe them when they say the officer lied. Julian Carter had every advantage. He had credentials, he had legal knowledge, he had federal backing, and even with all of that, Brennan still tried to arrest him. Think about everyone who doesn't have those protections. Everyone who gets stopped for smelling like weed when there's no weed. Everyone who gets pulled from their car and searched based on a lie. Everyone whose body cam footage gets buried or malfunctions or never gets reviewed. The body cam saved Julian's case. It proved the lie. It documented the escalation. It ended Brennan's career before he could ruin more lives. But how many stops happen every day without cameras? How many lies go unchallenged? How many Tyler Brennans are still out there fabricating probable cause and destroying lives one traffic stop at a time? Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. Thanks for watching this all the way through. If this story opened your eyes to how easily a traffic stop can become a civil rights violation, share it. If it made you think about the power of body cam footage, drop a comment. Do you think termination was enough, or should there be criminal charges for fabricating probable cause? See you in the next one.
Hey, stop right there. What are you doing out here this early?
Taking a walk. Is there a problem?
You're in a private neighborhood. I'm gonna need some ID.
You mean white people neighborhood?
You're acting suspicious. Looks like you're casing houses.
That's a serious accusation, buddy. Department of Homeland Security. I'm on duty, conducting surveillance nearby.
At 5:18 a.m., in a neighborhood where nothing ever happens, a patrol officer decided that someone didn't belong. There was no report, no break-in, no call for service, just a black man walking alone under soft morning light, hands visible, pace steady, on a street where silence usually means safety. From the body cam, the questions start immediately. Why are you here? Why are you out this early? Why do you need to be here at all? The word suspicious comes fast, then again, then louder. What the officer doesn't know is that this isn't a casual walk. It's federal surveillance on foot, connected to an active counterterrorism operation nearby. And every second he delays, every accusation he makes on camera, isn't just unconstitutional, it's costing his city $4 million. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments, and if you're new here, subscribe, because stories like this only matter if people actually see them. The neighborhood was residential, tree-lined streets, single-family homes, quiet yards. Nothing moved, nothing stirred. At 5:18 a.m. on a Wednesday, the only sound was the approach of the patrol vehicle rolling slowly through the empty streets. Officer Derek Paulson was 43 years old, 14 years on the force, 8 of those in this district. He knew the patterns, he knew the streets, he had stopped hundreds of people. He had never needed a reason beyond what his instinct told him. His instinct had always been enough. His badge had always been enough. His certainty had always been enough. The man appeared on the sidewalk ahead, moving at a steady pace, hands at his sides. Derek Paulson registered him immediately. Black, early morning, walking alone. Everything in that combination registered as something that needed attention, not threat, not crime, attention, something that didn't fit the pattern of the neighborhood at this hour. Paulson slowed the patrol vehicle. No lights activated, no emergency signaled. He simply rolled to a stop beside the sidewalk and exited the patrol car with the casual confidence of someone who had never been questioned about his authority. The body cam activated as Paulson left the vehicle. The image showed the man from less than a meter away, hands at his sides, casual joggers, gray hoodie, running shoes, posture relaxed, face calm. He was not running, he was not hurrying, he was not furtive, he was simply walking. "What are you doing out here?" Paulson asked. The question contained no preamble, no identification, no explanation of concern. It was a demand for justification for existence in this place at this time. It was authority asserted without foundation. "I'm out for a walk," the man said. His voice was even, steady. "Early morning, before work." "At 5 in the morning?" Paulson said. It was not a question. It was an accusation disguised as one. "Yes," the man said. The street behind them was empty. The homes around them were dark. Early light pressed at the horizon but had not yet broken through. The silence was absolute. Only two voices existed in the neighborhood at this moment, one belonging to an officer, one belonging to a man in a hoodie. "I haven't seen you around here before," Paulson said. His tone had shifted slightly. It was becoming more insistent. "I don't live here," the man said. "I'm just passing through." Paulson stepped closer. The body cam recorded the movement. Less than a meter now. Invasion of space. Standard tactic. The man did not step back. He held his ground, his posture still open, his hands still visible. "Passing through at 5 in the morning?" Paulson repeated. "That's unusual." "I like to walk early," the man said, "before it gets hot, before traffic starts." Paulson's posture changed. His hand moved to his belt, not toward his weapon, toward his radio, toward his notebook, the tools of authority. "You're suspicious," Paulson said. The word arrived without build-up, without justification, simply stated as fact. "I'm not suspicious. I'm walking." "Walking through a neighborhood you don't live in, at 5 in the morning, alone? That's suspicious." The body cam recorded the street, empty, silent, two men separated by less than a meter, one standing with the authority of a uniform, one standing with the calm of someone who had done nothing wrong. "Am I free to leave?" the man asked. "Not yet," Paulson said. "I need to know what you're really doing here."
ID, Paulson said, his hand extended, palm up, expectant. "Am I being detained?" the man asked. "I'm asking you a question," Paulson said. "I need to know who you are." "I don't have to answer that unless I'm being detained," the man said. His voice remained even, controlled. "Are you detaining me?" Paulson's jaw tightened. The body cam captured it, the micro-expression of someone unused to being questioned, someone who had spent 14 years where his word had been law. "This is a private neighborhood," Paulson said, "very exclusive. We have break-ins, we have surveillance systems, and people casing homes at 5 in the morning. You fit the pattern." "I'm not casing anything," the man said. "I'm walking." "People who walk at 5 in the morning aren't just walking," Paulson said. His volume had increased slightly. "They're doing something, and in this neighborhood that something is usually criminal." The man looked at Paulson directly. The body cam captured the moment. No anger, no fear, just direct eye contact. The kind of contact that came from someone who understood his rights. "I'm walking," he said again. "That's all. I'm exercising." "You're suspicious," Paulson repeated. The word had become a refrain now, a justification, an accusation embedded in language that required no evidence. Each time he said it, it became more true in his mind. "I'm black," the man said quietly. "That's not the same as suspicious." Paulson stepped closer. The body cam showed invasion of space accelerating. Barely any distance between them now. Close enough to be physically intimidating. Close enough to make someone question their right to be where they stood. "I've been doing this job for 14 years, Paulson said, "and I know suspicious when I see it. Your behavior is suspicious. Your presence is suspicious. You need to provide identification right now." "No," the man said. His voice remained calm. "Unless you're detaining me, I don't need to provide anything. And if you're detaining me, I want to know the legal basis."
Paulson's face darkened, not from embarrassment, from anger, from the resistance of someone who had never been questioned, who had never been contradicted, who had never been told no by someone without a badge. "You're obstructing," Paulson said. His accusation grew. "You're refusing to cooperate with a police officer. That's a crime." Asking for the legal basis of detention isn't obstructing. It's asking you to follow the law. The body cam recorded the tension, the empty street, the growing volume in Paulson's voice contrasted with the man's steadiness. One voice was rising, one voice remained level. "I'm going to ask you one more time," Paulson said. His hand moved toward his citation pad. "ID now." The man did not move. His hands remained visible. His posture remained open. He simply stood there, refusing to comply with a demand that had no legal foundation, refusing to provide identification for the crime of walking.
"I'm going to show you my credentials," the man said, "but I need to reach into my jacket slowly. I don't want there to be any misunderstanding." "Do it carefully," Paulson said. The man's hand moved slowly toward his jacket. The body cam recorded every motion. His hand entered the jacket. His fingers found the credential holder. His hand emerged. The badge was gold, Federal, Department of Homeland Security emblazoned across the seal. The man opened the holder and held it where Paulson could see it clearly. "Special Agent Marcus Williams," he said, "Department of Homeland Security, badge number 47829. I'm on active duty, and I'm working on a counterterrorism operation in this area." Paulson stopped talking. The body cam captured the moment. His mouth closed, his eyes moved to the badge. His posture changed, not deflated, changed. The assumption of authority shifted to the recognition of jurisdiction above his own. "I've been working this operation for 3 weeks, Agent Williams said. His voice remained even, clinical. "I'm conducting surveillance on foot this morning. My presence in this neighborhood is authorized by federal protocol and has been coordinated with your department's command structure, which apparently you weren't notified about." Paulson's face went pale, not from fear, from calculation, from the understanding that he had just done something that couldn't be undone. "I didn't know," Paulson said, the first time his voice had lost its certainty. "That's apparent," Williams said. He lowered the credentials but did not hand them over. "And now you've exposed an operation that has taken 3 weeks to position. You've compromised surveillance points. You've created documentation of federal activity that shouldn't exist on a local police recording." Paulson opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I'm calling my supervisor, and I'm calling federal command. You're going to stay right here, and you're not going to speak to anyone about what you've seen. Do you understand?" "Yes," Paulson said. Williams pulled out his phone. The body cam continued recording everything. He dialed. The call connected immediately. "This is Agent Williams, Operation Skyline. I've been stopped by a local officer. Badge number," he looked at Paulson. Paulson provided it. "Officer Derek Paulson, District 7. The operation is exposed. Location is compromised." A pause. Williams listened. His face remained expressionless. "Understood. Affirmative. I'll remain in place." He ended the call. He looked at Paulson. "My supervisor is notifying your department command. Your agency is going to want to explain why counterterrorism operations are being disrupted by patrol officers who don't know federal operations are occurring in their own district." Before Paulson could respond, his own radio crackled. A voice came through, urgent, directed at him by name. "Paulson, this is dispatch. You need to cease all activity and report to your supervisor immediately. Command is en route to your location." Paulson's radio fell silent. Paulson did not acknowledge. He simply stood there watching Agent Williams, understanding that his morning had transformed into something irreversible. Within 7 minutes, a patrol supervisor arrived, then a captain, then 2 federal agents in unmarked vehicles.
The street that had been empty at 5:18 a.m. was now filling with authority. Agent Williams provided a statement. The body cam was seized as evidence. Paulson was instructed to stand down. He was told to provide no further statements without legal representation present. The body cam recorded everything: the arrival of supervisors, the urgent conversations, the immediate removal of Paulson from the scene, the federal agents taking possession of the recording device. By 6:15 a.m., Officer Derek Paulson was sitting in a patrol car, suspended from duty, awaiting notification of what would come next.
"My supervisor is notifying your department command," Williams said. "Your agency is going to want to explain why counterterrorism operations are being disrupted by patrol officers who don't know federal operations are occurring in their own district." Before Paulson could respond, his own radio crackled. A voice came through, urgent, directed at him by name, calling him back. "Paulson, this is dispatch. You need to cease all activity and report to your supervisor immediately. Command is en route to your location." Paulson's radio fell silent. Paulson did not acknowledge. He simply stood there, watching Agent Williams, understanding that his morning had transformed into something irreversible. The calculation was happening in real time. Everything he had done, everything he had said, all of it recorded, all of it evidence. Within 7 minutes, a patrol supervisor arrived, then a captain, then 2 federal agents in unmarked vehicles wearing suits. The street that had been empty at 5:18 a.m. was now filling with authority stacking above him, federal authority above local authority above his own. Agent Williams provided a statement to the federal agents. The body cam was seized as evidence. Paulson was instructed to stand down. He was told to provide no further statements without legal representation present. The body cam recorded everything: the arrival of supervisors, the urgent conversations, the immediate removal of Paulson from the scene, the federal agents taking possession of the recording device, the moment when it became clear that this was no longer a local matter, this was federal. By 6:15 a.m., Officer Derek Paulson was sitting in a patrol car, suspended from duty, awaiting notification of what would come next. Internal Affairs opened an investigation by 7 a.m. The body cam footage was reviewed. The timeline was clear. No call for service, no report of crime, no justification for the stop itself, simply Officer Paulson's decision that presence required explaining. The investigation took 2 weeks. During that time, Paulson was placed on administrative leave. His union representative advised him to remain silent. His legal counsel advised him that the situation was serious, that the evidence was overwhelming, that the best outcome might be a resignation before charges were filed. The findings were completed by the end of month 1. Bias indicators were documented. Racial profiling was flagged. Fourth Amendment violations were confirmed. Obstruction of federal operations was established. The stop itself was ruled unconstitutional. By month 2, Paulson received notice of his termination. 14 years on the force, 14 years of stops and arrests and authority exercised without question, gone. His badge was revoked. His certification was suspended pending review. His employment with the department ended. The pension he had been building toward, the retirement he had been planning, all of it compromised. The federal government filed charges: false imprisonment under color of law, violation of civil rights, obstruction of federal operations. The charges carried potential sentences totaling 15 years. Agent Williams filed a civil rights lawsuit. The city was named as defendant. The federal government filed a statement supporting the lawsuit. The case was straightforward. The evidence was indisputable. The body cam had recorded everything. The discovery phase revealed additional information. Paulson's history was examined. Previous stops were reviewed. A pattern emerged. 47 pedestrian stops over 3 years. 39 of those stops involved Black or Latino individuals. 9 of those stops had resulted in arrests based on Paulson's testimony alone. No corroborating evidence, no additional witnesses, just his word against theirs. Cases were reopened. Convictions were examined. 2 individuals who had been convicted based on Paulson's testimony were released. Their convictions were overturned.
They had spent a combined total of 4 years in prison for crimes that had never been substantiated beyond Paulson's accusations and the assumptions he carried. The city's insurance carrier was notified. The exposure was calculated. The liability was astronomical. The settlement negotiations began almost immediately. The city's lawyers knew they were defending the indefensible. They knew the body cam was evidence. They knew the pattern was established. By month 8, a settlement was reached. $4 million. The city would admit no wrongdoing, but would pay the settlement. Agent Williams would receive $3 million for damages. The 2 individuals whose convictions had been overturned would receive $500,000 each for wrongful imprisonment. The settlement was announced at a press conference. Federal prosecutors stood beside Agent Williams. They explained the case. They explained how the body cam had documented the violation. They explained how a simple pedestrian stop had exposed systemic patterns of bias and abuse. They did not explain how many other stops had not been recorded, how many other people had been stopped without cause and had no federal badge to produce, how many other neighborhoods had experienced the same pattern of presence being converted into suspicion, how many other individuals had been questioned, detained, arrested, based on the same logic that Officer Paulson had applied.
Officer Derek Paulson went to trial. He claimed the stop was justified. He claimed his experience had told him something was wrong. He claimed he had been doing his job. He claimed that early morning walks in neighborhoods where someone didn't live was unusual. He claimed that his instinct had never failed him before. The jury heard the body cam footage. They heard Agent Williams testify calmly about what had occurred. They heard the timeline. They heard the absence of any call for service. They heard the word suspicious repeated without evidence. They heard Paulson's voice growing louder while Williams remained steady. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They returned guilty verdicts on all counts. Paulson was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. His appeal was filed and denied. The Philadelphia Police Department was placed under a consent decree. All pedestrian stops would require documented reasonable suspicion. All body cams would remain activated. All stops would be reviewed quarterly by an outside auditor. Any patterns of racial profiling would result in mandatory retraining or termination. Other officers' conduct was examined. 3 additional officers were found to have similar patterns. 1 resigned before charges were filed. 2 were terminated. The internal culture shifted, not from enlightenment, but from fear of federal exposure. Paulson's pension was forfeited. He entered federal prison in Pennsylvania with no retirement, no health insurance, no professional future. His conviction made regional news. His face appeared in articles about racial profiling. His case was used in police academies as an example of what happens when authority acts without cause. The empty street at 5:18 a.m. returned to silence. The patrol vehicle was assigned to another officer. The neighborhood experienced no more pedestrian stops for suspicious presence, but the system remained. The authority remained. The ability to stop someone and demand explanation for their presence remained. And every other person without a federal badge remained exposed to exactly what had happened to Agent Marcus Williams on that Wednesday morning. That's what this case shows. Not a problem solved, but a system exposed. Not victory, but documentation. Not justice for all, but justice for one, and $4 million in proof of what was done to the rest. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. And if this story showed you something you didn't see before, hit subscribe, because these stories only matter if people actually see them.
Who does this vehicle belong to? You don't look like the owner.
It's mine.
I'm gonna need to search it.
Do you have probable cause?
Step back, don't make this difficult.
I'm Dr. Anthony Shaw, administrator of the DEA.
This is a federal vehicle.
At 3:18 p.m. in a gated neighborhood outside a major U.S. city, a patrol officer believed he just found something worth seizing. The SUV was spotless, unmarked, expensive.
The driver didn't argue, didn't rush, didn't explain himself. That calm only made the officer more suspicious. From the moment the lights flashed, the questions weren't about speed or traffic violations. They were about ownership, about money, about how someone like him could afford a vehicle like that. The officer pressed for a search, hinted at cash, suggested contraband. What he didn't realize was that the man standing in front of him wasn't hiding anything. He was protecting something. Because this wasn't a luxury SUV, it was a secure federal vehicle. And the person the officer was about to detain wasn't a suspect. He was the administrator of the entire Drug Enforcement Administration. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, hit subscribe. Stories like these only matter when people see how power actually collapses. The neighborhood sat in an affluent suburb approximately 12 miles from downtown. Gated entries controlled access. Tree-lined streets wound through properties valued between $2 and $8 million. The kind of area where police presence was typically minimal. Calls were usually about minor disputes or false alarms triggered by expensive security systems. Residents paid for privacy. They expected discretion. They expected that law enforcement would be respectful of the distinction between their neighborhood and others. Marcus Shaw was driving home from a secured federal facility in a 2024 Cadillac Escalade. The vehicle was unmarked, no government plates, no insignia, no indication of official use. That was intentional, deliberate federal protocol. High-level operational commanders required discreet transportation, nothing that announced federal presence, nothing that compromised security, nothing that advertised authority. Shaw was 58 years old, 32 years with the DEA. He had worked his way through every level of the organization with deliberate precision. Field agent in Miami in the 1990s, supervisor of a regional task force, regional director overseeing 5 states, associate deputy administrator at the national level. Now, for the past 2 years, he held the position of administrator, the highest operational authority in the entire Drug Enforcement Administration. He answered to the Deputy Attorney General. He oversaw approximately 9,000 employees across 56 countries. His operational decisions affected federal narcotics enforcement policy worldwide. He had just finished a classified briefing with his executive team about ongoing operations spanning 6 countries and multiple continents. The briefing involved sensitive intelligence about international drug trafficking networks. The information was compartmentalized. The details were restricted to the highest security clearance levels. His personal security detail was minimal but present. 2 federal agents positioned at a distance that allowed him freedom of movement while maintaining protective oversight. They were experienced. They understood the balance between security and operational discretion. At 3:18 p.m., Marcus Shaw was approaching a traffic light on Meridian Street when he noticed red and blue lights activate behind him in his rearview mirror. The lights were unmistakable, sudden, authoritative, a traffic stop. He had done nothing wrong. He wasn't speeding. He had maintained consistent speed in the residential zone. He wasn't weaving between lanes. He wasn't making illegal turns. He wasn't violating any traffic laws. He was simply driving home from work in a vehicle he owned personally, purchased with his accumulated salary over 2 years, registered under his name with complete documentation, insured appropriately through a standard commercial provider. He pulled over smoothly into a residential area near the entrance to the neighborhood. The patrol car pulled in behind him, lights still flashing, creating a scene visible to anyone in the surrounding homes. The patrol car's engine remained running. The officer didn't immediately exit the vehicle. Shaw waited. After approximately 45 seconds, the officer emerged from the vehicle. His hand rested casually on his belt near his duty weapon. He moved toward the driver's side window with the practiced gait of someone conducting dozens of traffic stops each month. This was routine for him, automatic. His body cam activated automatically when he stepped out of the patrol car, standard protocol for all traffic interactions. Shaw lowered his window. He kept his hands visible on the steering wheel, exactly as he had been trained in federal protocol. He understood the dynamics of traffic stops. He understood how authority functioned at the local level. He understood that this was a moment that could escalate or de-escalate, depending on how he responded. The officer was James Kowalski, 43 years old, 11 years on the force. He had been with the police department since 2013. His service record showed no complaints filed. His conduct reviews were satisfactory. He had completed state-mandated training on civil rights and constitutional protections. He was considered an adequate officer by departmental standards. "Good afternoon," Shaw said. His voice was even, respectful, the tone of someone who understood that courtesy could diffuse tension. "License and registration," Kowalski said. "No greeting, no explanation for the stop, no statement of why he had activated his lights, just demands issued with the authority of someone who expected obedience." Shaw reached over slowly and retrieved his registration from the glove compartment. The movement was deliberate and visible. He wasn't reaching for anything else, wasn't concealing his movements. He removed his license from his wallet. He held both documents and handed them through the window without comment. Kowalski looked at the license, then at Shaw, then at the vehicle, examining it through the window. His expression shifted slightly, a tightening around the eyes. His jaw moved. Something about what he was seeing, or who he was seeing, had triggered a response. "This your car?" he asked. His tone carried skepticism, the kind of disbelief that suggested he didn't believe the answer before Shaw provided it. "Yes," Shaw said simply. Kowalski examined the registration. The document confirmed that the vehicle was registered to Marcus Shaw at a residential address in the gated neighborhood. Everything was accurate. Everything was in order. "You own this?" he asked. His voice had changed. It carried doubt now, not the casual skepticism of a routine stop, but something more pointed, something that suggested he didn't believe that the man in front of him could legitimately own such a vehicle. "I do," Shaw said. His voice remained calm, measured, exactly the kind of composed demeanor that, in Shaw's experience, would be interpreted as suspicious by some officers. Composure sometimes triggered more suspicion rather than less. Remaining calm was sometimes read as having something to hide. "Where'd you get the money for this?" Kowalski asked. The question wasn't about the stop anymore. It wasn't about traffic violations. It was about wealth, about how it was obtained, about whether it was legitimate. Shaw didn't immediately answer. He understood what was happening. He had prosecuted cases in his youth before joining the DEA. He understood the assumptions that guided some police interactions. "I'm asking how you purchased this vehicle," Kowalski repeated, as if Shaw hadn't heard the question. "Financing? Cash? Where'd the money come from?" "From a dealership, through normal purchasing, with a finance agreement." Kowalski circled the vehicle, walking slowly around the perimeter while his bodycam captured the pristine condition of the SUV. No dents, no scratches, no wear. Recent model year. All maintenance current. The kind of vehicle someone with significant financial resources would purchase and maintain meticulously. The vehicle was immaculate. He returned to the driver's side window. "Nice car," he said. "Really nice. How much you spend on this?" $87,000, Shaw said. "Why are you asking?" "Just curious," Kowalski said, but there was nothing casual about the curiosity. "Not many people afford a car like this through normal means. Usually involves some kind of activity that brings significant income, narcotics, illegal enterprises, that sort of thing. Drug trafficking operations, money laundering, that's typically how people end up with vehicles this nice at your age." Shaw understood immediately and completely what was happening. He had seen this before in his career, the assumption that wealth, particularly in the hands of a black man, indicated criminality, the automatic conflation of financial success with illegal activity, the implicit accusation that his prosperity was a red flag rather than the result of decades of professional work. I am a federal employee. My income is public record. My salary supports this purchase. It's not complicated. A federal employee, Kowalski repeated, drawing the words out as if they were suspicious in themselves. Doing exactly what exactly? Federal employee covers a lot. Could be anything. Could be something that explains how you got the cash for this. Shaw hesitated. His position was classified to a degree that went beyond normal confidentiality. His operational details were not appropriate for discussion with a local patrol officer who had initiated a stop without articulating any legal justification. His command responsibilities were sensitive. His daily activities involved classified information. I work for a federal agency, Shaw said. My employment is documented. My background has been vetted at the highest security level. That's all I can appropriately discuss. Federal agency, DEA, FBI, ATF, immigration, which one? I'm not required to answer that question, and I'd like to know the traffic violation that prompted this stop. Kowalski was quiet for a moment. His body cam captured his expression tightening. I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle, he said. For what reason? Shaw asked. You haven't cited a traffic violation. You've asked me questions about my employment and my vehicle ownership, but you haven't stated a legal basis for this stop or a reason to remove me from my vehicle. I'm asking you to exit the vehicle, Kowalski repeated, his tone harder now. That's a lawful order. You can comply, or we can make this complicated. Your choice.
Shaw unbuckled his seatbelt. He opened the door and stepped out. He kept his movements slow and deliberate. He kept his hands visible on his sides. He understood the dynamics of this situation better than almost anyone in law enforcement. He had trained officers. He had overseen civil rights compliance. He had reviewed cases of unjustified stops. He knew the protocol. Kowalski directed Shaw to stand near the front of the SUV, away from the door where he had limited ability to retreat. Shaw complied. The body cam captured the positioning. Shaw standing in open space in his home neighborhood, standing in a location where neighbors could see him, standing with his hands visible while a police officer maintained control of the vehicle and the interaction. You carrying any contraband in this vehicle? Kowalski asked. The word contraband was specific. It suggested drugs. It suggested weapons. It suggested something illegal. No, Shaw said. You transporting any cash, any large amounts? No, Shaw said. Any narcotics, any controlled substances, any pharmaceutical medications not in a pharmacy container? No, Shaw said. Kowalski walked around the vehicle again, examining windows for visibility into the interior, examining the condition of the tires and wheels, examining the exterior trim and panels, performing the systematic visual inspection of someone searching for justification. A federal employee with a vehicle like this, keeping it in pristine condition, driving home from somewhere at mid-afternoon? Kowalski said. Lot of people involved in lucrative criminal enterprises have similar patterns, similar vehicles, similar attitudes about their assets. They maintain their vehicles because they're using them to project status, to show success, to indicate that they're doing well financially. That's a known indicator. I'm not involved in any criminal enterprise, Shaw said. You've asked me directly. I've answered directly. I'm exercising my right to refuse further questioning. You wouldn't tell me if you were. That's the thing about this. I need to verify independently. I'm going to need to search the vehicle. Do you have probable cause? Shaw asked. Kowalski's jaw tightened. He was silent for a moment. The condition of the vehicle, your evasiveness about your employment, your possession of significant assets, your presence in this neighborhood, these are all indicators, Kowalski said. Those aren't indicators of probable cause, Shaw said. His voice remained calm, but there was an edge now, an awareness that he was dealing with someone determined to fabricate justification for an illegal search. Probable cause requires specific, articulable facts that suggest criminal activity. Owning a nice vehicle is not a crime, not in this country. Refusing to provide personal employment details is not suspicious. It's a constitutional right. Remaining calm during a traffic stop is not evasive behavior. It's the appropriate response. "I'm asking for your consent to search," Kowalski said. "I don't consent. I explicitly decline consent to search. You can document that I have refused consent." Your refusal is suspicious. If you have nothing to hide, you wouldn't object to a simple search. Law-abiding citizens cooperate. Law-abiding citizens also have Fourth Amendment rights, Shaw said. "I'm declining consent. That's my right. I'm not obstructing anything. I'm exercising Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable search." Kowalski was silent for a moment longer. His body cam captured his expression hardening, the moment when frustration turned into something else, into determination, into the decision that he would proceed regardless of the response he received. "I'm going to search this vehicle," he said. "You can cooperate or not, your choice, but I will search it." "You don't have probable cause," Shaw said. "Searching without probable cause or consent would be an illegal search. Any evidence discovered would be inadmissible, and you would be in violation of federal civil rights statutes regarding unlawful detention and unreasonable search." "I'll be the judge of what's legal," Kowalski said. "I've been doing this 11 years. I know what suspicious looks like, and this looks suspicious. Everything about this situation looks suspicious." He reached toward the door handle of the SUV.
Shaw raised his hand. "Stop," he said. His voice was firm, but not raised. "I need to show you something." Kowalski paused. His hand froze on the door handle. "I'm reaching for my credentials," Shaw said. "Federal credentials. Please don't misinterpret my movement. I'm reaching for my jacket pocket. Slowly." He moved his hand with exaggerated deliberation, understanding the dynamics of the moment, understanding that sudden movements could be misinterpreted, understanding that this was a critical juncture where miscommunication could create serious consequences. He retrieved a leather credential case from his jacket, federal seal embossed on the front in gold. The case was worn from years of use. It was clearly official. He opened it slowly. The badge was visible. Federal, official, gold and silver with the distinctive DEA seal. The photograph inside matched the man standing in front of Kowalski. The name read Marcus Shaw. The title read Administrator, Drug Enforcement Administration. The credential was current, valid. Everything about it was authentic. Kowalski's face went completely blank. His hand dropped from the door handle. His entire posture changed, not into deference, but into something closer to shock, the realization that the situation had shifted in ways he couldn't control, the understanding that he had made a catastrophic miscalculation. "I am the administrator of the Drug Enforcement Administration," Shaw said calmly. His voice remained steady and measured. "This vehicle is a secure federal vehicle used for my official duties. You are currently in violation of federal statutes regarding obstruction of federal operations. You have detained a federal officer without legal justification. You have attempted to fabricate justification for an illegal search, and you have done all of this while I remained calm, compliant, and cooperative." A second vehicle pulled up behind the patrol vehicle. Two federal agents, part of Shaw's security detail, emerged and approached Kowalski's patrol car. They weren't aggressive, they were professional. Their identification was visible, their authority was clear, their presence was unmistakable. This interaction is now being documented by federal security personnel. Your body cam footage is being retained as evidence of federal civil rights violations. Your patrol vehicle's in-car camera footage is being secured, and this matter is being reported to the highest levels of federal law enforcement authority. The FBI's Civil Rights Division will be conducting a parallel investigation. Kowalski's supervisor, Captain David Rodriguez, arrived within 8 minutes. Rodriguez understood immediately from the federal presence what had occurred. He had been on the force for 22 years. He knew the protocol for federal involvement. He knew the implications. He pulled Kowalski aside and spoke to him in low, urgent tones, while Shaw remained standing near his vehicle, calmly but visibly separate from the interaction. Rodriguez's face showed the strain of understanding the magnitude of what had just occurred under his officer's command. Federal agents took custody of Kowalski's body cam. They took Kowalski's patrol vehicle's in-car camera footage. They photographed Kowalski's uniform and weapon. They documented the exact location of the traffic stop, the time, 3:18 p.m., the duration, 11 minutes and 43 seconds, and the complete absence of any articulated traffic violation that had preceded the stop.
They interviewed Shaw on scene, taking a comprehensive statement about the interaction. They obtained his security details observations. They documented the condition of his vehicle and the legitimacy of his registration. Within 12 minutes, calls were being made to the police department's chain of command. The chief of police was notified by Captain Rodriguez. The city's legal department was notified by the chief of police. The city manager was notified. By 3:47 p.m., the DEA's Inspector General office had been contacted directly by Shaw's federal security detail. By 4:05 p.m., the FBI's Civil Rights Division had received formal notification. By 4:15 p.m., the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Section had been contacted. Kowalski was removed from the traffic stop and placed in his patrol car. He was driven back to the police station without being read his rights. He wasn't under arrest, but he was effectively detained for questioning. His badge was secured. His weapon was secured. He was placed on immediate administrative leave pending investigation. Shaw was escorted back to his vehicle by federal agents. The security detail confirmed the integrity of the vehicle. No tampering, no damage, no evidence collection performed. Shaw was driven home in a follow-up vehicle while federal personnel documented everything about the initial traffic stop. Photographs, measurements, the exact location where he had stood, the trajectory of Kowalski's sight lines. The body cam footage showed exactly what had occurred: the casual racism, the assumption of criminality based on wealth and race, the pressure for a search without legal justification, the refusal to accept legitimate reasons for declining to provide more information, the repeated returns to the vehicle's condition as evidence of suspicion. All of it documented, all of it recorded, all of it preserved as evidence of bias and civil rights violation. Internal Affairs opened an investigation into James Kowalski before he even returned to the police station. The investigation focused on this single interaction, but investigators immediately began pulling his complete record. They reviewed his previous traffic stops systematically. They examined patterns in his stops over the past 11 years of employment. What they found was striking and systematic. Over the past 3 years specifically, 73% of Kowalski's traffic stops involved black drivers. Over the past 5 years, the percentage was 68%. Of the stops involving black drivers, only 18% resulted in citations or warnings. 37% resulted in searches being requested without probable cause. Of those searches for which documentation existed, drug paraphernalia or cash was allegedly discovered in 40% of cases. The pattern suggested that Kowalski's searches were targeting specific demographics and that when documentation was unavailable or incomplete, he had discretion to claim discoveries that may not have actually occurred. The pattern suggested systematic bias. Internal Affairs submitted its initial findings within 5 days. The investigation was thorough and detailed. The conclusion was unambiguous that Kowalski had engaged in bias-based policing, unlawful detention of citizens, violation of Fourth Amendment rights, and conduct unbecoming of an officer. By the end of the second week, James Kowalski was terminated from the police department. The termination letter, more than 3 pages long, cited pattern bias in stop selection, violation of use of force policies, violation of civil rights protections, false statements in police reports, and conduct inconsistent with department values. His police certification was revoked by the state licensing board. The revocation was permanent. He would never work in law enforcement again. Any future employment would have to disclose the reason for his police decertification. Any background check would reveal the civil rights violations he had committed. Marcus Shaw filed a federal lawsuit against the city on personal grounds, not on behalf of the DEA. The lawsuit was filed in federal district court. It cited unlawful detention, violation of civil rights under 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, Fourth Amendment violations, and deliberate indifference to constitutional protections. The lawsuit specifically mentioned the pattern of bias evident in Kowalski's stop record over his employment history. The city's legal department immediately entered settlement negotiations. They understood the exposure. They understood the precedent a trial would create. They understood that litigating against the administrator of the DEA in federal court would be not just costly, but potentially devastating to the city's reputation and finances. Within 3 weeks, a settlement agreement was reached for $847,000. The settlement included no admission of liability from the city, standard language in such agreements. The settlement required mandatory training for all patrol officers on civil rights protections, Fourth Amendment requirements, and bias recognition. The settlement established a community oversight board to review patterns in traffic stops across the department. The police department released a brief public statement. "We have completed our investigation into a traffic stop conducted on October 15th. The officer involved in the stop has been terminated from employment. The department remains committed to professional conduct and constitutional compliance. We have implemented enhanced training and oversight mechanisms to prevent similar incidents in the future." No officer was named publicly, no details of the settlement were disclosed, no details of the allegations were specified. The statement was designed to limit damage while appearing responsive to the incident.
The story made regional news. Local media outlets reported federal officials subjected to unlawful traffic stop by local police. The coverage was brief and factual. The DEA issued no public statement regarding the incident. Marcus Shaw declined media interviews. His office emphasized that the matter was resolved and that they were moving forward. What wasn't reported publicly in any comprehensive way was the operational security complication the incident had created. Shaw's secured vehicle had been identified by a local police officer. The secure travel patterns from federal facilities to his residence had been compromised. Federal security protocols had to be reassessed. Alternative routes were established. New vehicles were arranged. The incident, while resolved quickly at the legal and administrative levels, had created lasting complications in ongoing federal operations. Resources that should have been dedicated to narcotics enforcement had to be redirected to security concerns. The broader pattern that the internal affairs investigation had identified wasn't addressed comprehensively by the settlement or the termination. How many other drivers had been stopped based on asset suspicion? How many searches had been conducted without probable cause? How many cases had been prosecuted based on alleged discoveries that may have been fabricated or that came from illegal searches? The city ordered a comprehensive audit of traffic stops from the past 5 years. The audit examined records from all patrol officers in the jurisdiction. It looked for patterns similar to those identified in Kowalski's record. The audit identified 147 stops by 6 different officers that showed similar patterns, similar demographics, similar search requests without articulated probable cause, similar alleged discoveries of contraband or cash. Of those 147 stops, 43 had resulted in arrests. Those 43 cases were reviewed systematically. 5 were identified as having evidence of constitutional violations. The individuals in those cases were offered the opportunity to have their convictions vacated if they wished to pursue it. 2 individuals accepted and had their convictions overturned. 1 had served 18 months in county jail on a drug possession conviction based on alleged evidence discovered during an unlawful search. He was released. He sued the city separately. That settlement was sealed and confidential. The other 3 individuals chose to remain convicted despite the identified constitutional violations.
They believed that the cost of relitigation, the uncertainty of new trials, and the potential for continued prosecution made fighting the conviction more risky than accepting it. One individual who did accept had spent 18 months in county jail on a drug possession conviction based on alleged evidence discovered during an unlawful search. He was released immediately. He sued the city separately. That settlement was sealed and confidential. The amount was never disclosed. He was provided expungement of his record and was reinstated to his previous employment. The broader conversation about asset-based racial profiling didn't emerge from this incident in any sustained public way. The conversation about how wealth, particularly in the hands of people of color, triggers criminal suspicion from authority figures didn't become a public priority in policing reform discussions. What changed was specific and limited. One officer was terminated. One settlement was paid. One city implemented additional oversight. One set of cases was reviewed. One federal official had his civil rights vindicated. But the question remained unanswered. How many identical stops occur every day across the country where no federal credential is revealed, where the driver simply complies with an illegal search because they don't understand their rights, where the constitutional violation passes undocumented and unaddressed, where the system functions exactly as Kowalski believed it should, with authority unchecked and compliance assumed? Marcus Shaw returned to his work at the DEA. His operational security was reassessed. His travel protocols were modified. His security detail was expanded. He continued his duties as administrator, aware that this incident, this single traffic stop in a gated neighborhood lasting 11 minutes and 43 seconds, had exposed vulnerabilities in federal operational security and had forced a painful reckoning with the reality of how race and wealth intersected in law enforcement interactions. The vehicle remained in his personal possession. He continued to drive it. He understood that the stop, while resolved, had demonstrated how assumptions about wealth and race could override training, policy, and constitutional protections. He understood that he had been privileged by his federal position. He understood that most people didn't have that privilege. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. And if this story showed you something about asset-based profiling and the assumption that wealth equals guilt, hit subscribe, because what happens when silence is mistaken for weakness matters. It matters when federal authority has to assert itself against local law enforcement making unfounded assumptions. It matters when wealth, in certain hands, is treated as inherent guilt. And it matters most when the person being stopped has the power to hold the system accountable, because most people don't. This story ended with justice because one man had federal credentials and federal resources. But that raises the hardest question. What happens to everyone else? What happens to the person without credentials, without federal protection, without the resources to sue, without the institutional power to trigger investigations? That's where the real story is, and that's the story that doesn't get told until someone with power decides it's worth telling. See you in the next one.